Okay, this is Geometry 3.7, graphing the coordinate plane. Our objective today is to graph and write linear equations. So you've seen slope. M is the ratio of the vertical change, and that'll be rise, okay, to the horizontal change, run. And so M, which is slope, is rise over run, also known as y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. You could see it as y sub 1 minus y sub 2, x sub 1 minus x sub 2, but these are the only two permutations of that equation you'll see. Keep in mind those subscripts tell you, the user of the equation, that you need two different points. We have our two different points here. We have the -4, -2, and we also have 1, 3. I'd like you to notice that when I write these equations or these numbers in, I put the y on top and I write the x immediately underneath it. Okay, so the y on top and the x immediately underneath it, and find their difference. Now, when I get this done with their difference completed, I know that this is going to be -5 over -5, which is just 1. Now, I got a couple of people out there going, well, hey, Bloom, you put that first point in the second point spot, and it doesn't matter. Remember, these subscripts are there to tell you need 2 points. But say I did it a different way. You know, just for argument's sake, what if I wrote it as 3 over 1, and then I wrote it with -2 over -4, and keep in mind, I got to take the opposite of those. This becomes 3 plus 2, which is 5 on top, and this becomes 1 plus 4, which is 5 on the bottom, which is still 1. So we still have it as 1 when we're looking at this. Now, keep in mind as recall, because we did this in 8th grade, and we did some with some pre-algebra stuff with positive, negative, 0, and undefined slopes. A positive slope from left to right goes up, and that's like your bank account. And that's going up. You know, it's makes you happy as your bank account. A negative slope, left to right, goes down. Again, your face after the bank account is drained. It's going down. A 0 slope is constant. Okay, it goes straight across. It's flat. And an undefined slope, okay, is a vertical line. Now, as we look on this, the biggest concern I have is you being able to plug the points in for slope. Again, I take my points. I've got 0, 0. Let's talk about it this way. I'm going to write the equation each time we use it. I've got my slope, which is rise over run. I got change in y over the change in x. You'll see it as delta y, delta x in science. So I'm looking at this change in y over the change in x, and I'm still popping stuff in. I got -10 over 5, subtract 0 over 0. Okay, that's going to give me -10/5, which is just going to give me -2 is my answer. Okay. Now, in the next one, I've got another one that's very similar. Why don't you try it, and we'll see what you know. Okay, hopefully you're writing the equation. I'm asked how I know or how I keep in track of things that I write down, or how do I keep my memory going with it. I write it every time I do it. I talk about it. Okay, I review it. So I got 0, 0 here, and I use it often. And here I've got this to be -14 over -2, which is like this, which is just +7. Now, my next one, again, slope, y sub 2 minus y sub 1, x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Again, the subscripts are there to tell you you need two different points. It doesn't matter the order. If I decide to flip the order of what I've been doing so far, I will just keep alternating the way I have been, just to keep everybody happy. I plop everything in. I make sure 4 goes in. I did this first, 4 and -1, and then I did 1 and 4. and I'm looking at 3, -5, so we got -3/5. Now, sliding on, we're going to do some more tomorrow, but I want to see this particular one, and we're going to look at E as well. So let's look at these two before we slide on. Change in Y, change in X. Remember, I've got 5, 2 to -3. Find their difference. So here I've got myself a 3 and a 5, so that's 3/5. Okay. Now, I want to solve for the indicated variable. And the purpose of this is for me to get the equation that we start with in the form of y equals mx plus b. So we want to put it in this form, but we're faced with this form of the equation. Okay, so I want to get this 4x to the other side. In order to do that, I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. And that subtracting will give me 5 minus 4x. But if you notice, it's not in that y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to add opposite. And I'm going to realize that I can make this, if I add opposite, okay, I can add out of order. So I got -4x plus 5. So now that's in y equal mx plus b form, and I can cleanly read my slope, which is -4, and my b, which is 5. Now remember, slope is m, and that b is my y-intercept. And I'm doing this for review. You saw this in algebra or linear algebra. So this is a recall of this idea in skill. So in b, I'm looking at making sure that I subtract 2x from both sides. So my first, okay, sorry, we're here. And I'm looking at this idea of subtracting 2x from both sides. So I got -y equals 4 minus 2x. But you know, instead of looking at it that way, I could look at it as adding a -2x. So let's do that. I'm going to add a -2x. So I got -y is equal to -2x plus 4 because I can add out of order. And now I'm going to take the opposite of everything. So y is equal to positive 2x minus 4. And now I can read my slope, which is 2, my y-intercept, which is now -4. In C, I'm supposed to still solve for y. And I'm going to subtract x from both sides. -3y equals -x plus 9. Remember, subtracting an x, same as adding a -x, and I can add out of order. And then I'm going to divide by -3. Y is equal to -x over 3, or -3, plus 9 over -3. Well, if I simplify, this is y equals 1/3 x, or x over 3, 1/3 x minus 3. So my slope is equal to 1/3. My y-intercept is -3. Now when I'm looking at problems like D, and I notice that everything is divisible by 5, I'm going to go for dividing by 5. So now I got 5x, 5y, and 20. So I'm going to divide everything by 5 just to make things easier. Just to start, x plus y equal 4. And now just subtract my x, or add a -x. So y is equal to -x plus 4. So my slope is -1. My y-intercept is 4. The last one we're going to do today, I've got 1/2 x plus 5/2 y equal 1. The first step I'm going to do, because I have those 2's in the bottom, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So now I'm going to get this by 2 and this by 2. Okay, whatever I do one side, I got to do another. But when I do that, I'm going to have x plus 5y equal 2. Now that'll make things easier for my next step, subtracting x and then dividing by 5. So I got 5y is equal to -x plus 2. And now I divide by 5, and y is equal to -1/5 x plus 2 fifths. So my slope is equal to negative 1/5. My y-intercept is equal to 2/5. Now, slope-intercept form of a non-vertical line, y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope, and that's a rise over run, and b is the y-intercept. Write an equation in slope-intercept form given b, the starting point is in the direction, rise over run, the m, and graph it. So we're going to use the m to help us, but we first got to start with our b. So I'm going to find my b, which is negative 2. Okay, so I'm going to go down my graph. I've got negative 2, and I'm going to go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. And then up 5, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. And I'm going to make a line on that. And that's my graph, but I was also supposed to write the equation. So y equals mx plus b is my equation, and I have my slope 5 and my y-intercept negative 2. So I plug those in. And that's my equation of the line with slope 5 and y-intercept negative 2. The next thing I want you to do is just write the equation for b and c. So write your equation for slope, using your slope of 1 and your y-intercept of 3 in b, and do the same in c. I'm going to give you a minute to do that. So you have y equals mx plus b, and again, you don't remember these equations unless you rewrite them, you say them, you know what they mean. I'm talking about slope m and x. X lets me know my slope is next to it, and then I add in the b, and I've got y equals x plus 3. And in c, it's interesting that you're looking at y equals mx plus b, and y is equal to 0x plus 4. But 0 times anything is 0, so that really becomes y equals 4. So I have my two equations, and now I'm going to graph them. And when I'm graphing them, I'm looking where I start, and my starting point is my y-intercept here in b, 3. So I'm going to go up to 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go up 1 over 1 because that's my slope. Now, if my slope is a whole number, I can just slide a 1 underneath it. If you recall, I've got rise over run now. And I could have done the same thing with 5. And I go up, 1 over, 1 up, 1 over, and I'm able to draw my line going across here. And C, doing the same exact thing. I've got my 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I got 0 slope. So I'm really talking about, if we harken back to our slopes, a horizontal line that crosses the y-axis at 4. Okay, so I've got a y-axis crossing at 4 there. Now, the difference of the ones we just did in these is the fact that I don't have to put a 1 underneath. All I have to do is follow along, and I'm just going to do E today, and then we'll review again tomorrow with the other two. So I have y equals mx plus b, where y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus 5. Again, I'm starting at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm starting here at 5. And from 5, I'm going to go down 3 because I've got a rise over run of negative 3/4. I put the negative with the top value. So I would go down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm able to draw my line through those 2 points. And apparently I'd written that earlier. Okay, so sliding on. Which points are a solution to 4x minus y equal 1? And how I find that is I just plot numbers in and to x and y. So I pop it in. I pop my negative 1 in for x, my 3 in for y, and I find that after I evaluate that negative 7 is not equal to 1, so that is not a solution. I do the same thing in b. I plop in 1 for x and 3 for y. Okay? And I find out that 4 minus 3 is 1. So yeah, that seems to be a solution. But remember, they have a plural in which points. I've got to check all of them. So now I do the same thing with 4. or C, with plugging 1 in for X and 0 in for Y. That doesn't seem to make sense. And I do my last one. I plug in -1 for X, 5 for Y, and that does seem to work. So my two solutions are B and D. Now, point slope form. This is another form of the line. This one's really useful if I have a point and a slope and I'm asked to write an equation. Excuse me. So I have this form, y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And remember, those subscripts are telling me I need just one point to make this work, and I still need my slope, where m is the slope, which is rise over run. Okay, and that's y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, and x1, y1 is a point on the line. Okay, now keep in mind, if I'm just asked to do the graphing, I can go to 3, 8. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and I can go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, because remember, it's slope, rise over run, and I just quickly put a 1 underneath there to make that a fraction, and I'm able to just graph my line going across here because I'm at 1, 2, 3, 8, and I'm down 2 over 1. Okay, so my equations graph that way. But they asked me also to write the equation. This is x sub 1, this is y sub 1, and so I got y minus 8 equal -2 x minus 3. I have just written an equation in point slope form. I'm done. Okay, I don't have to do anything else. It's very descriptive. I know where y is, I know where x is, and I know where my slope is. Now, you guys just plug in your values and graph your line for B. So if I'm plugging in my value, -4 goes in for M. Okay, 1 goes in for X, -3 goes in for Y, and I've written my equation. Now again, I've got 1, -3, 1, 2, 3, and I've got a slope of -4, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Okay, and I can reverse that, 1, 2, 3, 4, back 1, and I can have my equation of my line, and that's a picture of all possible points that go through that. That line is a picture of all the points that will go and work in this equation that we have here. My last one is a fraction. Still nothing special. I still treat it the way I've treat all the others. So I got y plus 3 is equal to -3/4 x minus 2. And that's my equation. But if I just want to graph it, I go to 2, -3, 2, 1, 2, 3. And I go down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm able just to draw my equation of my line, and that's a solution to that equation. We will do these tomorrow. Equations of horizontal lines are of the form y equal b. Now horizontal lines cross the axis, okay, the y-axis, at the b value. So if this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis, and this is my y-axis, and this is my x-axis for that, I've got to keep that in mind. B is my y-intercept. My slope is 0, and it's going to cross the y-axis at a value b. B is a number. If I'm talking about a vertical line, they are the form x equal a. And I'm talking about x equal a, slope is undefined, and x equals a, where a is an x-intercept. It crosses the x-axis at that point. So what I'm saying here is graphing the lines, if x is equal to 5, I go over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is where my x will cross the axis, and if I have a better line there we go. I'm able to cover that spot at x equal 5. At y equal -3, I go down 3 and I make my line at -3, and we will save the next two for tomorrow. Now, the last thing that we've got going here is I'm looking at write an equation in point slope form given 2 points. Now, this is a little bit more extended, but I would always use the point slope form and not the slope intercept form unless I was given a point slope and y-intercept. So here's the deal. I've got these 2 points. I'm going to find their slope. Okay, so I'm going to find the slope of these 2 points, and I'm just going to pop them in, and I find out that it's 5. In both cases, it's 5. So it doesn't matter which way I do it, whether it's 4, 3, -1, 2, or -1, 2, and 4, 3. I still find my value of +5. This is still going to be +5 for my slope. Now I got to pick one of these lines, pick one of the original points to use with the slope from step 1 to plug m and x1, x sub 1, y sub 1 into the point slope equation. So I've got this going on here, and I'm going to pick one of them, and I'm going to be pretty direct. I'm going to pick this one because it doesn't have a negative. Sometimes I don't have the choice, but if there's going to be a mistake, it'll be with that negative. But I've got y minus 4 is equal to my m, which is 5, x minus 3. Now, I have just written the equation of a line. Now, I've got a couple people sitting out there going, Bloom, come on, you picked that 3, 4, and you put 3 in for x, you put 4 in for y. What about 2, -1? You know, you could have. I could have just gone here, went y minus a -1, which is +1, is equal to 5 x minus 2. Now, these are the same answer. They look different, but I want to talk about why they're the same answer. Here, I'm writing an equation in point slope form given 2 points. So I was able to do that. They're done. We had to find slope, and then we have pick a point, and we just plop it in. But by solving for y, you can put the equation in slope intercept form. So let's talk about that. If I solve for y minus 4 is equal to 5x minus 15. I just distributed the 5. Now I'm going to add 4. So y equals 5x minus 11. So that's in slope intercept form. Well, I had that other equation. Let's do that. I'm going to distribute y plus 1 equals 5x minus 10. And I'm going to subtract 1. Y equals 5x minus 11. They are the same equation in slope intercept form, although they started differently. So long as it's the slope and the points that helped us find the slope or that are on the line with that same slope, it will be the same slope intercept form. Now, it's your turn. I've got the steps there. I want you to try it and turn it off, give it a try, and I'll work 6A. Welcome back. Okay, so we got 6A, write an equation in point slope form given 2 points. First thing I got to do is find slope. Okay, so I've got 6, 4, -3, 1. I find their difference, and my slope 9/3 becomes 3. Now I pick one of the equation, one of the points. I don't care which one. I'm going to pick 4, 6. Okay, so I'm going to pick 4, 6 because that was the first one. It's also got no negatives they have to deal with. 4 goes in the x, 6 goes in the y, and then 3 goes in, and I'm done. Now, this is point slope form given 2 points. I'm done. I want to make an emphasis, though, that if I wanted to write it in slope intercept form, I would take my point slope form and solve for y. And so if I would do that in this case, 3x minus 12, and then I'll add 6, and y equals 3x minus 6. So this is in slope intercept form. if they asked me to do it that way. Okay, now that's the we'll do that one more time, except we'll do it on the next page. And I think I have you just graphing these on the next page, so we're okay. Make sure that you're comfortable with these. If you have any questions, let me know. Get this back up, and we will go over any trouble spots you have on the assignment, and then maybe we'll do a couple notes before we continue on with the other half of the assignment. I hope things go well, and thanks for your time.